Hi everybody, welcome back to another Books and Looks video. If you are new here, I'm Jen. Thank you so much for watching one of my videos. What I do here is I talk about books that I have recently read and I do my makeup at the same time, blend it together for two of my favorite things. It's a get ready with me / book review kind of situation. So thank you for coming. I hope you are entertained and enjoy this. Get some good books you want to read, maybe some interesting looks you want to try. And if you are returning, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to have you back. I don't know if you're a friend of mine in real life or if you only know me on here, but either way, I thank you. Add some comments below with maybe how many videos you've watched, which ones are your favorite, things of that. I'd love to hear from you and see what you like and what you don't like so I can grow and get better at doing this. So I guess with that, let us begin. I unfortunately do not have a copy of the book that I am talking about today because I loved it so much. I immediately loaned it out to somebody to borrow because I was just like, y'all, this book is so good. I was telling people about it and I had somebody say like, oh my gosh, I want to read it. So here we are. I don't have it, but I'll put it right here. Good cover, right? It is, I just saw, it was right here, right? Oh. Everyone in my family has killed someone, and it is by Benjamin Stevenson. So good. I'm just going to tell you right now, it's a 10 out of 10. I loved it. I loved the writing style, narrative style. Some of the motifs in it were entertaining, and not only that, but I loved the story. I loved the murder mystery. I loved the twists at the end and how all these little bits and pieces came together beautifully at the end. I loved it. So 10 out of 10. I'm just going to tell you right now, I loved it. But let me tell you about the plot. It's a very complicated plot. There's no way I'm going to be able to tell you everything that happens in this story. So, sorry. I will tell you the most important parts to the best of my ability, but also there's just so much. So I'm gonna do my best, okay? And I'm also gonna try not to make this video too terribly long because again, like there's so much in the story and it's so good. I have so much I want to tell you. So let me just shut up and tell you, right? Okay. All right. So this story is about this is the Cunningham family. Sorry. It's the Cunningham family, and it is told from the point of view of Ernie, who is one of the sons. And you come to find out pretty early on that he's going on a weekend getaway to a ski resort. It's like a family reunion because his brother Michael is getting out of prison. He killed somebody, and he's getting out of prison, so they're doing this weekend getaway where like they can all get together, welcome home, da 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 da. So it's him. Obviously, Michael will be there, but he's not coming until tomorrow because he doesn't get out until tomorrow morning. But everybody else is showing up, a day early to get settled or whatever. So he goes to the weekend getaway. He's there with his mom, his stepfather. His father died 30 years ago. I'll get to that. His aunt, who's his brother's sister, and then her husband. And you know how if you have been to my videos before, I don't remember anybody's names. I remember Ernie, I remember Michael. His stepfather is Marcello. I think it was Aunt Catherine, and his mom was Audrey. Okay, I'll do my best. So they're there. Oh yeah, I was telling you the characters. So we got Ernie, his brother Michael, Ernie's ex-wife, Erin, Michael's ex-wife, Lucy, and then Ernie and Michael's mom, Audrey, her new husband, Marcello, their father's sister, Catherine, and then her husband. I'm not going to remember. His name. It was Alan. Maybe it was Alan. But anyway, so they're all there. And they're welcoming him home, welcoming Michael out of prison. Well, the day they arrive, I don't know, on a Thursday night. And the very next morning, early in the morning, there is a dead body. So like, it's a good murder mystery within like the first 10 pages you have a dead body. So like, yeah, good murder mystery. So they find a dead body. Nobody seems to know who he is. Everybody's accounted for at the resort. They don't know what's going on. And a police officer shows up. So it doesn't seem to be blending weird, or maybe I'm just getting old and I'm seeing age spots. Okay, so nobody knows who this dead person is. All the guests are accounted for. And then, of course, there's a storm coming in because, of course. And that's another funny thing that I liked about the story. Ernie, the narrator, is a fictional character, right? But he is a writer who writes books on how to write books. So throughout the whole story, he's giving these little tidbits where, like, if this was a traditional murder mystery, then this is the point where blah, blah, blah would happen. Or like, I'm not making up the storm coming because that's, a plot trick or whatever to make it more interesting. He's like, there really was a storm coming. So kind of cool. Very fun. That was another element that I really, really liked about it. So I digress again. I'm going to digress a lot. So I'm just going to tell you that right now. Sorry. What was I saying? Oh, yes. Okay. So they're all there. They find this dead body. Nobody knows who he is. It's really weird. A cop shows up, but only one cop shows up because the storm comes in and nobody else can make it up there. So they have just this one cop there. I don't remember his name. He had a name, but I don't remember what his name is. So there's this one cop there. He's not a very good cop. They're like, he must be a rookie. We don't know. And then, of course, there's the owner of the resort. She's there too, obviously. Well, not long after, they send most of the guests home because they're like, there's been a murder. There's this big storm coming. We need to get people out of here as quickly as possible. So they do. They get people out as quickly as they can. And this little random rookie cop is like, well, I called for people. They're going to be here as soon as they can, but there's a lot going on in town with the storm and da-da-da-da-da. It's like, okay, fine. So they're trying to figure out who this is. And I forgot, the stepsister, Sophia. She's a doctor. And so when she gets called to the body and she's like, I think he was murdered. There's a serial killer. This takes place in Australia, by the way. There's this serial killer known as the Black Tongue who would suffocate his victims with ash. And that's why he was known as the Black Tongue. Because, like, when you're suffocated with ash, your mouth and your tongue obviously turn black. So they called him the Black Tongue. He's killed 3 people in the last, 10 years, blah, blah, blah. So she's like, I think it's the Black Tongue. So everybody's, freaking out. Almost everybody leaves the resort, except the family refuses to go because they're like, Michael's coming. We need to, we can't just ditch him. We have this whole plan, blah, blah. So they end up staying. There's obviously bigger reasons why they're staying, but they're staying. So they're trying to figure out what this is. Sophia thinks it's a serial killer. She's freaking out. And then a couple of hours later, because remember, they all arrived on Thursday, but then they found the dead body Friday. A couple of hours later, Michael shows up with Ernie's ex-husband, Aaron, and that's when you find out that Aaron actually left Ernie to be with Michael. And then over the course of the story, you find out that they actually started their affair way before he went into jail. And then while he was in jail, they decided to make it official so that she could visit him and be with him. So then she officially left Ernie and told him, I'm going to be with your brother Michael, blah, 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 blah. So then you find out, why was Michael in... Actually, you found out why Michael was in jail a little bit earlier. But let me tell you. Michael was in jail because he killed someone. Everybody in my family has killed someone. So basically what happened was in the middle of the night, he allegedly found this random person shot and accidentally hit him with his car and didn't know what to do. So he called up Ernie and was like, I don't know what to do. And for some reason, they decided the best thing to do was to just randomly bury the body. But Ernie couldn't live with that. So after that happened, he called the police and basically said, this happened with my brother. I don't know what happened, but, body buried, told him where it was. And so Michael ended up being... So, they couldn't prove that he killed the guy, but the fact that he hit him with his car, could have killed him, and then buried the body in the woods, it was all suspicious. So he ended up only getting, a few years in prison, even though... Ernie and Michael both know that when they were burying the body, he actually like came back to life, like woke up for a second, and Michael like covered his mouth and made sure that he was dead and then finished burying him. So like Michael actually did kill him. But he only had a few years in prison. And then you come to find out that the guy that he killed was an old cop from like years and years ago that had a connection to their father's death. Their father was killed 30 years ago because he was in a gang, and like a robbery gang group or whatever. But unbeknownst to most of the people, including Ernie, he didn't find this out until a little bit later in the story. His father was actually an informant, and he was with this gang legitimately, but then he turned and started working with the cops and was like feeding them information so that they could get the gang. But then there were also dirty cops that were involved in like helping the gang. So Ernie's father had to be like real discreet because he didn't know who the good cops were, who the bad cops were, etc. And his, whatever the cop is that's like the good cop that's working with the informant, whatever they're called, it was this woman whose name I can't remember, of course, but she ended up being murdered, and you later find out that the Black Tongue murdered her. Okay, so like the Black Tongue does have something to do with all of this, so there wasn't just like a random thing. So back to the father. So the father, he ended up killing a cop who was one of the like dirty cops, because the dirty cop knew that he was rattling on them and was going to, or tattling on them, and was going to ruin everything, that he was going to get in trouble, blah, blah, blah. And so there were these two dirty cops, and they ended up going to where the dad was robbing a convenience store, but he wasn't actually robbing the convenience store. It was all a ploy because he was going to get arrested and pass off information to his informant cop lady. But the dirty cops came instead because they knew what was up, and they shot and killed the father. But at the same time, in the shootout, the father shot and killed one of the dirty cops. So that the father killed someone too. So the father died 30 years ago, but the one dirty cop didn't die. He did get disgraced, though, for some reason. I don't remember. There was something happening where he ended up not getting, like, he lost his job, blah, blah, blah. And that is the guy that Michael killed in today, or like 3 years ago. So Michael, they're trying to figure out, like, why was Michael getting together with this dirty cop who 30 years ago was involved in their father's death? Like, where does this all come together? And it slowly starts to unfold that the father apparently had photos that he was going to give to the cop, but like nobody knew where the photos were. So after the father died, the bad guys, including the dirty cops, came after Ernie and Michael's mom, saying like, we need these photos, we're going to come after you, take kids. And we find out at this point that, what am I doing? Okay, we find out at this point that there's actually a younger brother, Jeremy, who died when they were little, because after dad died, their mom, Audrey, like got super depressed, and obviously, and like now she's a single mom, and so she was starting to get like absent-minded and just like, you know, depressed and grieving, and she allegedly left Jeremy in the car, and Jeremy died, like, of overheating. Like, she forgot to drop him off or whatever, and so he died. But here's a spoiler alert. You later find out in the story that that's not what happened. That's what she let everyone believe, which is kind of awful, to let everybody believe that you did that to your own kid, that you caused your own child's death. Like, whew. So that's where, like, mom killed someone, but technically she didn't, because the gang and the dirty cops actually kidnapped the little brother Jeremy and held him as ransom for these photos that they wanted, like the photos that would get the gang and the dirty cops in big trouble. But the problem is, nobody had any idea. Like, the wife, Audrey, the mother or whatever, she didn't even know that her husband was actually like on the good side and was like an informant. She didn't know he had photos. She didn't know anything until like years later. She tells you, like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know anything about this, but they didn't believe her. So they end up taking Jeremy, and they never saw Jeremy again. So she was just like, this is what happened. I left him in the car. He died, blah, 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 because she didn't want to like get in trouble, or like she didn't want the bad guys to come after her. And they also threatened, like, we're going to take your other kids, we're going to kill you, da 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 da. So she had to, like, in order to protect her other two sons, she had to, like, you know, just go with it and be like, okay, yeah, this is what happened to Jeremy. So this is a complicated story, and that's why I'm like so impressed, because this guy, okay. So Michael shows up at the family reunion after this random dead body is found and most of the guests have gone home, and he shows up with a moving van in the middle of the winter on a ski resort where a storm is coming. So they're all like, that's suspicious. And he's like, well, there's something really important in there. I'll show it all to you later. Now's not the time. Let's just get settled in. But then a moment later, the cop comes out and is like, Michael Cunningham, you're under arrest for the murder of this random guy. And he's like, how in the world? Everybody's like, how in the world? He just got out of prison. He was murdered last night. How? And then we find out that Michael actually got out of prison yesterday, but didn't tell anybody. And he and Aaron went to do some mysterious thing that involves the moving van, and like nobody really knows. And so all this weird stuff. Okay. So he gets arrested. They're trapped at this resort. So locking him in this room for safekeeping because, you know, the cop's like, it was you. Your whereabouts aren't accounted for. You're already a known felon for murder. Blah blah blah. So he gets put away. And then Ernie goes in to talk to him, and he says all this weird stuff, and he's like, oh, you know, you're going to solve all of this. You need to go look in my car. There's something, or in the van, there's something really important in there. So then he goes and he looks in the van, but on the way there is when you find out from Sophia that she thinks it's the serial killer because, you know, the serial killer killed a cop years ago. Remember the cop informant, as well as this random old couple who was like well loved in the community and like, you know, always did wonderful things for, you know, the people in their town. Like this serial killer killed these two people. And then like 5 years later, this cop. So, and now we're seeing his MO here with this rando on the mountain. She's like, I think the serial killer is here and we need to get out of here. They're like, no, we're staying. We need to help Michael. We need to clear his name, blah, 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 blah. So then Ernie goes and looks in the moving van and he finds a casket. And Ernie's like, why is there a casket? And it's covered in dirt. It's clearly been exhumed. So he goes in and he looks at it and he does all this work to try to open it up. And in it, he finds the dead body of the cop that his father killed. And he knows it was that because like they went to the funeral and like he recognized like the outfit he was wearing, or there was something unique about it that he was like, oh my gosh, this is the cop that my father killed 30 years ago. But there was also another body in the casket, a child's body. And he's like, what the heck? Why is there a child's body in the casket of this cop? So he starts to really try to figure this out and he's really struggling. He's like, what is happening? I don't know. So he goes back and he goes to talk to Michael, but when he goes back to talk to Michael more, oh, and by the way, I've almost forgot. Somebody cut the brake line of the moving van, and while he was in it looking at the casket, it starts rolling down the hill and falls into the lake, and Ernie actually dies for, I think, 3 minutes, and they resuscitate him with like CPR and like the like wall mounted paddle thingies, whatever they're called. So and then later on you find out that his stepfather Marcelo cut the brake line because he thought something blah 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 blah, which wasn't accurate, and he was trying to get rid of the moving van and whatever evidence Michael brought with him. He had no idea that Ernie was going to get in the van and it was going to start rolling down and fall in the lake. So it wasn't his intent to hurt Ernie. He just wanted to get rid of the evidence in the van. So that's how Marcelo is counted as like he murdered somebody, because he actually technically did, because Ernie died for 3 minutes. But anyway, yeah. So it's getting crazier and crazier. Then he goes back, like I said, he recovers, and then like a few hours later, he's like, I need to talk to Michael. And they're like, but you're ill, you almost died, blah, 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 you did die. He's like, no, I need to go talk to Michael. But when he goes to Michael, Michael is dead in the locked room where he was like under arrest, and they cannot figure it out, and he is also dead by the black tongue. So somehow the black tongue got to him also. So they're like, oh my gosh, the serial killer is here. This is the second body that hits the MO of the black tongue now. Like, what the hey, right? So now they're like really convinced that the serial killer is here. Michael's dead. The rando on the mountain is dead. And yeah, they're just, everything's really confusing. So then they decide, and then Lucy disappears. Lucy is Michael's ex-wife, if you can't remember. They can't find her. They're worried. They think is the black tongue got her. But then they think, well, maybe she's the killer and she has run away. So they start to look for her, and they get in like this special snowmobile thing, and they go to over the mountain to the neighboring ski resort. And while they're there, there's this old couple, which is weird because it's like a party resort. So that's how they figure out like this old couple is important. So they go to the couple. You find out that the old couple has been in communication with Michael. Like, what? Because, as you will slowly find out, so Michael killed the cop that killed his father. Remember 30 years ago, the two dirty cops showed up. His dad killed the one cop. The other cop killed him. So this guy, whose name I can't remember, I want to say, let's just call him Bob. I can't remember his name. So Bob, the dirty cop, is who Michael killed. And they're like, oh my gosh, why did Michael kill this cop? Why did he come to Michael 30 years later? And as it turns out, Michael figured out where the pictures are, but he never saw the pictures or anything. I don't remember how he figured out where the pictures are. He somehow figured out that these pictures that his dad had, he figured out where they were somehow. And do I want to do, yeah, I do want to do brown eyeshadow or eyeliner. So Michael, did Michael call Bob or did Bob call Mike? Either way, they got in touch and they were going to meet up because the old couple at the other resort are the parents of a girl who was kidnapped 30 years ago. And when they went to pay the ransom, for whatever reason, they decided not to. And so they never found their daughter, and they assumed their daughter was killed because they didn't pay the ransom. And the gang that dad was in and the dirty cops, they were doing some kidnapping for money. So they kidnapped this old couple's daughter because they were rich for ransom. So now, and then the dad had photos that the dirty cops were trying to get rid of. They killed him, blah, blah, blah. They still want the photos. They tried to blackmail, and then they kidnapped and killed the younger brother. And then now in modern times, Michael somehow figured out what the photos were. And as it turns out, you don't find this out until the very end, but as it turns out, Michael reached out to the parents and were like, hey, I have photos that have information about your daughter's kidnapping, but I want $250,000 for them. And the rich people are like, done. Here's $250,000. But I wish I could remember the details because it got real complicated at the end and I read it so fast because I was like devouring it. Bob, the dirty cop, somehow, is he the one who I think he was the one who had the photos. And Michael was like, I can get you money for the photos if you can meet up with me. And so they did. And that's when like the exchange happened. And somehow he had $250,000, but Bob, the dirty cop, there was some sort of issue. They fought over the gun. The cop got shot and Michael was like, oh crap, what do I do now? Tried to run away, but then literally accidentally hit him. So that part was truth. didn't know what to do, called his brother, and like all that stuff that happened in the beginning of the story. Now why? Because he got ransom money from the parents to give to Bob the dirty cop so that he could get these photos, but something went wrong. It didn't go right. Michael ended up in prison, and now here we are today. Michael allegedly brought evidence of what happened to the daughter, and the old people, the parents, were like in the not make it look too suspicious. Were in the neighboring ski resort, and they were all gonna come together. I am not doing my makeup, so all of this stuff was coming together. So, and in the meantime, there's this. I'll wait to get to that. So now we're finding out why and how Michael killed Bob the dirty cop that 3 years ago that was somehow linked to their father's death 30 years ago. I don't know if I said 3 or 30 a second ago. I apologize if I said the wrong number. But anyway. But Michael's dead. And remember the casket that was in the back of the moving truck that's now in the bottom of the lake, and it had the 2 dead bodies in it? Ernie is like, oh my gosh, that must be the kidnapped girl. They killed her and they hid her body in his casket because, like, who would ever think to look there, right? Well, so Ernie kind of starts piecing it all together. Sorry, I have to concentrate. Hold on, I gotta think. Okay. So they are now starting to put all the pieces together. And in the meantime, oh no, I'm almost out of brown eyeliner. It's fine. I bought more. I just don't have it in the room with me. So now Ernie's starting to figure this all out, right? And they're still trying to find Lucy, which is why they went over to the neighboring resort. She disappeared. They don't know what's going on. They can't find her. They think she ran away. Maybe she's involved to kill her. I don't know. But then they shortly thereafter, like they go to the neighboring resort, they meet the ransom parents, they find out information. Ernie starts putting pieces together. They come back to their resort and they find Lucy's dead body. She had jumped off the roof of the resort. And they're like, why in the world would she kill herself? Is it because Michael's dead, but they're divorced? They don't really understand. And so, again, they start researching a little bit more. And remember, Sophia is still like, I think it's a serial killer. And then there's there's this whole other subplot involving Sophia. So remember the $250,000 that Michael was going to use to ransom for photos that Bob the dirty cop was going to give him? Whatever happened to that money? Well, when they killed him when Michael killed Bob and then Ernie came in to help him bury the body, he took the money and hid it. So he's had it this whole time. He's had a duffel with almost $250,000 because they spent some of it. But Sophia comes in and she's like, listen, I know you have this money. I know a lot about a lot of things, and it's family money. Don't spend it. Like, I keep it secret, but I actually need $50,000. Can I please have $50,000? Ernie's like, why? You're a surgeon. Like, I don't understand. And then you slowly find out that Sophia is addicted to pain pills. And when she was doing surgery, her patient died on the table and she was being investigated. And so she's like, I'm going to lose my license and I have all these drug debts to pay. Like, I don't know what to do. I need $50,000. But she didn't tell Ernie this at the time. She's just like, just don't ask. Like, please, I just need this money. I promise you it's for nothing illegal. Although technically it is. But, so he is like, well, I don't know. Let me think about it. And he has all this other stuff going on. So, and then he's like she keeps getting sicker and sicker and paler. And that's how he slowly figures out, like, you're addicted to pain pills and you didn't bring them up here, did you? And then you find out that Aunt Catherine, I mentioned her in the beginning, she's kind of been there the whole time. You find out through a little tiny flashback that she killed somebody because she used to be an addict and alcoholic. And she was in a car accident that killed her best friend and also, like, shattered her leg. So she was an addict, but she never takes pain pills because she's worried about an addict. She's like, this is penance, whatever. So she recognizes that Sophia is also an addict and has been trying to help her, and planned this weekend as like a detox for Sophia, and took the pain pills from her, and is like basically, and that's part of the reason they came to the ski resort. So she would be like trapped there for a weekend and could detox, because if she does like a blood analysis test and they find drugs in her system, she'll lose her license, blah, blah, blah. She'll lose her doctor's license. So Catherine is there to help her, and that's also how you find out that Catherine killed somebody. So she's helping Sophia through all this, but in the meantime, I'm okay. Sophia is like, oh my gosh, there's a serial killer here. I'm detoxing from pain pills. This is the worst weekend of my life. And then they find Lucy's dead body, and it's just like chaos. So now there's 3 dead bodies, right? Well, technically 5 if you count the 2 corpses that are in the bottom of the lake. Which, if you haven't figured it out for yourself yet, the little kid in the coffin is the missing child. So, for a moment, for a hot minute, I thought it might have been Jeremy, the little brother who was kidnapped. But no, somehow it was confirmed that it is the little girl that was kidnapped, and the old people. And they're like, we know where your daughter is. You can have her pulled from the bottom of the lake and have a burial. So, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so, okay. I'm trying to like pace it, sort of. All right, so things are starting to come to a head. Now there are 3 dead bodies: the rando, Michael, and Lucy. Lucy wasn't killed by the black tongue. At least she doesn't have the ash. She jumped from the roof. But Ernie's like, I think this is the black tongue, and I think so because we had a conversation not that long ago where when she saw Michael, she was like, I can't even imagine dying like that. I would rather kill myself. And so whenever the black tongue actually came after her, and I'll tell you why in a second. The black tongue actually came after her, and she didn't want to die that way because it's like a slow, painful death. So she jumped off the roof when he was chasing her. So the black tongue killed her too. And still, we don't know who the black tongue is at this point, or like which person is the killer, right? So, a little bit earlier, before Lucy was killed, somebody had a picture of the rando from the mountain, and like not many people looked at it because it's gross and creepy, and the cop was like keeping it under wraps, right? So, who had a picture? Sophia had a picture. She snuck a picture because she was a doctor, so they called her to help look at rando, confirm his death, help, etc. So she had a picture. So she shows the picture to Lucy, and Lucy freaks out and runs away. And they're just like, okay, like she's always been weird, whatevs. But as it turns out, she recognized the rando because on her drive to the resort, she got pulled over for speeding and got a speeding ticket. And it was the cop who pulled her over, was the rando dead person. So she recognized him and was like, oh my gosh, like that's the cop. And so she's like, well, if that's the cop, if that's the actual cop, then who's this cop guy who's been here like helping us and waiting for the real detectives to show up? And that's when Ernie is like really putting all the pieces together. She's like, oh my, he's thinking, okay, so Lucy recognized that he's the cop. Then who's this cop guy? We have the whole thing with our father who killed a cop, and then that cop had the photos of the old couple that they were trying to buy the photos to figure out about their daughter, etc., etc. And then we also have this little sidebar of this serial killer who seems to be here for some reason, and this random cop is killed. But then we have a cop here that doesn't seem to know how to do his job, but is doing a really shitty job, doing a really bad job. Sorry about that. I'm trying to be family friendly. Trying to do he's doing a really bad job. Like, he's not really investigating anything. It's really weird. So Ernie's like, wait a minute. You're not a real cop, are you? And then you also... Okay, so then, like, everything comes together. It's like your standard ending where when the mystery's solved, the narrator like tells the story and everything falls into place and the killer's like, you're right, haha. So that's what happens here. Hold on, let me get some blush. Okay, so he brings everybody together. He's not feeling well. He, just almost died the day before by falling in the lake. He's got all this stuff. He just found out the truth about like his father and his brother and everything. So, and he also found out that how his mom didn't actually kill his brother by leaving him in the car. She knew the whole time that he was kidnapped. He didn't know that until now. So he's putting all the pieces together. Oh, and then there was this other little sidebar that Marcelo had this very fancy Rolex watch that I don't even remember if it works, but his father was giving it to his son Jeremy as a gift. It was supposed to be like a family heirloom, and they're like, well, that's weird, we never had any money, how did he buy a Rolex? So that also plays into it. So that was like the resolution, right? Ernie brings everybody together, and including, so it's him, his mom, his stepdad, Sophia the sister, Aunt Catherine, Uncle Alan, the hotel owner, and the cop that might not actually be a cop, right? And he basically says everything. He's like, look, this is what happened. And he explains, Dad killed this cop because he was a dirty cop and Dad was an informant. The other dirty cop has been mad at him for all these years. They kidnapped this child and put her, they killed her and put her in the coffin. We just found it. Michael knew it and proved it with the corpse, but we lost it in the bottom of the lake. We'll have to exhume it. Also, the kidnapped girl's parents are in the next resort over, and they are here to get information and proof about what happened to their daughter. But when I was talking to them recently, there were some weird things that didn't make sense, but now they do when I figure out that this cop is not a cop. This cop is actually our younger brother Jeremy, who was kidnapped when we were little and we all presumed murdered. Nay, to be a little Bailey-Sarian shout out. Nay, he was not actually murdered. He was just kidnapped and then eventually went into the foster care system where he always felt left out and like there was something wrong with his family. And then when he was a teenager and he found out that he was actually adopted, lost his mind, killed the foster parents he was living with. Remember the old couple from 30 years, or not 30 years ago, from like however many years ago, the first serial killer victims? It was Jeremy. He lost his mind because he always felt like weird and whatnot and never understood why. And then he felt so betrayed and lied to by these people that he murdered them by making them suffocate on ash. And then he was like, oh, cool, this is my thing. I'm a murderer now. And then when he found out about the informant and how it was the informant's fault that his father was killed, because then he started like investigating and he figured out who he was and where he came from. He's like, oh my gosh, my father killed someone and it's this informant cop's fault that my father was killed. And then he also learns about Michael killing somebody a few years ago, and he devises this whole plan to get back with his family because everybody in his family has killed someone. So now he's like, I belong with them. It's in my genes. Everything makes sense now. So he decides to go to this family reunion and basically like reconnect with his family under the guise of like, we're all murderers. We're like meant to be together. And Ernie like tells this whole story, and Jeremy's like, yes, you are 100% correct. And I'm like, it's great. Family reunion time. Yay. But I forget who says something like, what's wrong with you? You're insane, blah, blah, blah. And he loses his mind and he starts attacking people and he sets the building on fire. Okay. Climax moment. he loses his mind because they're all like, no, we're not murderers. This isn't what we do. It's just happened a couple of times. And he's like, oh no, I'm gonna light the building on fire. So he lights the building on fire. Everybody's trying to escape. Ernie's like, he died 12 hours ago. Sophia's in detox. And then like Aunt Catherine has that bum leg from the car accident. It's crazy. So like they're trying to get out. He's attacking them with a fireplace poker. But he takes Catherine, he starts strangling Catherine, and so her husband, Uncle Alan, rips the poker out of his hand and bashes him across the head. So now Alan has killed somebody. However, Jeremy isn't actually dead, because why would he be? So they all leave. They all run out of the burning building. And Jeremy comes out. He's like half on fire. His like head is gushing blood. They're all just like, holy crap, how does this guy not die? And then he falls over. Alan goes over to him and he's still breathing. And so Alan, like, whatever, kills him, finishes him off. Eek, hope we're still okay. Yeah. Finishes him off. And that's basically how it ends. Except there's a little epilogue where you find out the pictures. Where were the pictures the whole time? Like, what are these pictures? So, the Rolex, apparently you can take pictures and like minimize them so tiny they look like a tiny little dot. And they were on the watch, like somehow it was like a dot that was on the watch. So like when Ernie figured all of this out, and there were also a couple of things where like okay, we're good. Michael gave him some clues where he figured out it was on the watch. And so he did it. And he also found like one of those jeweler things. So he looks at the photos finally. And he realizes, let me work on some lipstick while I'm here talking. Oh no. This one? Wonderful. Oh, we'll try this one. It might not work though. So he finds out, I'm sorry, that was very suspenseful. Sorry. The pictures show the kidnapping. I feel like I don't have any blush on. They show the kidnapping. I'm so sorry, people. And the kidnapping was orchestrated and planned by the girl's father. He was there helping her be kidnapped. Well, not kidnapped. She was dead before she was kidnapped. And the kidnapping was all a ruse to make it look like it was a kidnapping and not, like, I don't remember exactly, but for some reason, somehow the father, like, killed the daughter or something, or it was an accident. I'm not sure. But either way, the father was in on it the whole time, and he never intended to, like, do anything to get the daughter back. This is the wrong color for me, but it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So it was the little girl's father, one of the old man that was there. This is all making sense because I'm all over the place. I'm sorry. So he was in on it. Ernie figured it all out. There was nothing they can, like, he didn't do anything about it. He didn't, like, I think he just let it go. Maybe he turned the photos in and got the man in trouble, but the $250,000 that Michael got from that old couple that didn't go well, that Ernie ended up taking, he kept it. He kept that money. Sophia got clean. Oh, as it turns out, after that whole thing with the fire, Sophia had to go to the hospital and got pain medication. So, like, it all worked out for her, and she got clean and kept her license and, like, went on with her life and, learned from her mistakes and is better. He reconciled with his mother. He had issues with his mother. It's the whole thing. Jeremy is dead. Michael is dead. Lucy is dead. Yeah. So it was really good. And there were so many other little things in there that, like, popped in my head when I was telling the story. And I'm like, I can't give every detail. But there were a lot of little things in there that came together so nicely. There was, like, a phone call thing. And then there was a video of, like, Marcello and the father went somewhere. They left for like 3 hours and they couldn't be accounted for. It was like a whole thing. All these little tidbits that it all came together, and it was so good. All these bits and pieces came together. It was so well done, and the writing style was good because it was from Ernie's point of view, and he was an author, and he kept like bringing up all these little like authory things, and he was telling the story, and it was really good. 10 out of 10 recommend. Everyone in my family has killed someone by Benjamin Stevenson. I went out and I bought his other book. I haven't read it yet, but I'm gonna, called Everyone on This Train is a Suspect. Something along those lines. Can't wait to read it. If it's anything like this one, I know I'm gonna love it. Yeah. That's my story. That's my book. That's my look. I just got my hair cut and styled yesterday, so it's fine. Or not yesterday, 2 days ago. So it's kind of dying. I need to wash it, but that's my look. I got a little orange thing going today. I hope you like it. I don't think have I done orange, just like orange and brown? I don't know. Anyhow, add some comments below. Have you read this book? What did you think of it? Did you love it as much as I did? Do you think you might want to read it? I highly recommend you do. Yeah, if you have any other book recommendations for me, put them in the comments below. I'd love to hear that kind of stuff. Any feedback on my makeup look today? I feel like my blush is a little on the light side, but I don't know. It's fine. Maybe I should try different colors. Any different eye looks you want me to try? Just don't have high expectations when it comes to my eyeliner because it's not my forte. I can't do all that fancy stuff. I mean, I could try. Who knows what'll happen. Well, anyway, this has been one of my longest videos. If you have stuck with me, thank you so much. I hope you were entertained and want to read this book or try this look. And I hope you come back. I will try really hard not to be this long next time. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful everything. And as always, stay beautiful inside and out. Bye.